thought find up, and every conversation explores the art of thinking beyond the obvious. And today I have my special guest, a debut novelist and longtime public relations and crisis communications consultant, no other than Mr. John David.
How are you?
I'm
Thanks for having me on the show.
fabulous. I'm fabulous, fabulous, Mr. John. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I missed?
Well, you covered the basics, but yeah. So my name is John David. I'm a public relations marketing consultant by trade, and I just published my first work of fiction, my debut novel. It's called The Bystander. It came out. It just released within the past 2 weeks from Thule Publishing in California. It's a mystery novel with some thriller elements to it. It's been getting some solid reviews so far. A lot of people like it, and I'm out hustling, man, trying to find new readers.
And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Mr. John. Hoping for more and more empowering books to come. And today, let's talk about the fiction publishing process, including how to find a literary agent and how to secure a deal with a small press and the basics of audio entertainment rights. So tell us, beyond a polished manuscript, what are the core elements of a killer query letter that truly makes an agent or agent stop and take notice?
Well, I mean, I wish I had the like the best answer for that. I think I can probably help you more with the overall process. What you first said is I can't emphasize enough. What the first part of that is that if you've written a book, you've written work of fiction. Nonfiction publishing is a whole different animal. If you've written a fiction book and you want to try to get it published, that industry is largely controlled by literary agents, as you described. The first step is, as you said, you need to have a polished manuscript. You have to be ready to go. You're not. You have to have a book that's completed, that has a beginning, a middle, and an end, that has a good story, that has good characters, and that has been reviewed by an editor who's beyond the actual author, who's can give other perspectives, and it also needs to be proofread, so it doesn't have any spelling errors or glaring grammatical errors, things like that, because anything like that will really hurt you in the publishing process. And then the next step is that if you want to go the route of working with one of the major publishers, we call them the big five. The literary agents, around the world, they're the gatekeepers for the big five publishing houses. And the big five publishing houses also include all their imprints, that are affiliated with them. But there's really five major publishing companies, and they're the big dogs in the publishing world. Um, and meaning traditional publishing versus, say, self-publishing. And once your manuscript's ready to go, then you can start to reach out to the agent world, and you develop what's called a query letter. It's really a pitch. It's sort of like a one pager about your book that explains what your book is, what genre it is, how long it is, who the main characters are, what makes it interesting, um, and a short kind of synopsis of what happens in the story, and then an explanation of who the author is and any credentials the author has that that would boost the interest of the agent. Um, and also you also include what are called comps, which are similar novels, to your novel if you're the author, so that the agent has an idea of what this book might be like and what they might compare it to in the marketplace. Um, and that's really the sort of table stakes when it comes to pitching a novel into the agent market.
Interesting, Mr. John. Interesting indeed. So, what is the most effective strategy for identifying the right literary agent for your work beyond just genre? How important in their personality and communication style?
Well, I think, again, I'm not a complete expert in this. I think the biggest, the most important thing is to research agents. Everything I've read, everything I've talked to with when I've talked to agents is that they they're comfortable in certain lanes, right? So you want to make sure you pitch, if you write a mystery novel like I wrote, you want to reach out to agents who represent mystery novels, right? Primarily. Um, and the same thing if it's a fantasy novel or if it's a historical fiction or if it's a a romanticy piece, whatever. You want to make sure that you're pitching the agent that likes to work in that genre, and they have connections with the publishers that buy books in that genre. Um, and there's a certain amount. I think that's probably, in my opinion, that's probably the biggest key. There's some folks who believe that you can kind of try to cozy up to agents by reaching out to them and reminding them of the other books that they represent and how you like them and whatever else. And I think that might work. I'm not sure if it absolutely does. I think ultimately what it comes down to is you have to find a way to break through and get an agent to read your pages. That's the biggest thing. Is you're submitting. Typically, when you submit a query to an agent, you're submitting the first 5 pages, the first 10 pages, the first 20 pages of your novel, and if they get past the letter, they're going to read it, and then you want them to read your pages and think, okay, I could see myself. I'd like to read the rest of the book, number one, and then I could see myself representing this book, because ultimately it's the book, not the author. It's the book that they're representing.
It's the book itself. And Mr. John, when pitching a novel, most authors focus on plot. What are the most nuanced elements like voice, comp titles, or thematic depth that can make a pitch truly irresistible?
I wish I knew the answer to that. I wish I knew what to do to make a pitch totally irresistible. Um, Again, from my research, what I've seen is that agents. So every agent's different, and every agent represents different types of different genres, and so some are just looking for you know beautiful writing. I mean, and typically when you see beautiful writing, it, and words that just sort of leap off the page at you. Others are looking for stories that move quickly. Others might be looking to be sort of pulled into have an atmospheric, immersive other world. So every agent's a little bit different, and that's where sort of the research part of it comes in, and that's where you have to make sure you find the agent. You have to understand if your book is a fit for them, and then you have to, when you reach out to them, to give them a reason to move past the query letter and actually read your stuff. Does that answer your question?
Yes,
Okay. Okay.
indeed. An author gets an offer of representation. What are the critical questions they should ask an agent during the call before signing?
Um, when do I get paid? No, I think, listen, not every agreement is equal. I think that the biggest, I think that it's important that you understand that you're a good fit with an agent. I think some authors would say, you know, um, any agent is the right agent because it's so hard to it's really hard to get representation. But I think it's important that the agents truly represent the kind of work that you do, that they've had this kind of success that you want. I think is important to look at the track record of an agent, um, and see if they've taken other clients to the places that you want to be. Do they sold a book like yours into the marketplace that's been successful? Have they had success, with what they call subsidiary rights? Have they been able to turn your novel into audiobooks, for example? Have they been able to sell books into other markets around the world? Those sorts of things. And then you can even dig into asking about marketing plans and things like that. Just see if you're right. If you can ask those sorts of questions and you get and you get answers that work for you, then I think that's how you'd make a decision to, if you were, for example, trying to compare more one agent versus another. I'd be asking those sorts of questions.
The submission process and a big five versus small press. Once an agent signs a client, what does the revision process typically look like before the manuscript goes out to editors? How much does the manuscript usually change?
Well, in my personal experience, so I went directly to a small press. So I actually, I dealt directly with my publisher, and I had a finished manuscript that I presented to them. But I had worked very hard on it, and I actually had hired a freelance editor to help me, and I hired a proofreader to help me, and I had people read it and give me feedback. But when I got to the publisher, it's really a whole other level, a higher level of expertise. I had a very talented developmental editor who helps improve the story. Asked me questions about my characters, tried to make my characters kind of leap off the page a little bit more, give them a more of a better kind of overall story arc. So there's a lot of changes that come in because these are the folks who are really the professionals and who know what make what make a great novel. And then after that, you then go through another layer of like copy editing just to make sure that everything works in the story. You didn't miss anything. There's no loose ends, things like that. And then finally, it goes through another proofreading process and formatting process where another set of eyes make sure that there's no extraneous punctuation or misspellings or anything, so that the book is perfect. So a lot happens after you are engaged with a publisher.
Walk us through the submission strategy. How do you decide which editors to pitch, and what happens during often nerve-wracking waiting period?
I'll tell you, it is the process of trying to find a literary agent is it's I think it's probably improved to certain degrees, but in my opinion, it's a slog. It is like a lot of work, and it takes a long time for the most part, um, to do it. And there's some technology out there that's helpful. Um, but it's really, I've described it as a test of will. If you believe in your book, then you really have to keep pushing, because um, even after the publishing industry has gone through so much disruption, in the past 20 plus years. I mean, since Amazon, it's just been this incredible disruption in the publishing industry. But to get to the big five publishers, you still have to go through their process, and it's a little bit, um, I don't know if I'm not sure if archaic is the right word. It just seems like it takes a long time. And it's, you can reach out to an agent and they'll tell you, we'll get back to you. If we're interested, we'll get back to you in the next, 4 to 8 weeks. And then if you don't hear from us, we're not interested. and so you feel like you're submitting your stuff kind of into a black hole, and you never know if anything's going to ever come out of it. So it can be a real challenge, and you got to be ready for rejection, because the majority of what you're going to get is rejection. But then you have to stick it out and do your best to find success. As I mentioned, there's some platforms out there that that can help you with this. There's a platform that the agents use. It's called Query Manager, and then the side of it, the other side of the coin is the site for authors, which is called Query Tracker. And what that enables you to do is automate the process a little bit. So it has a database. That has hundreds of agents in it, and you can then research them by the genres that they accept. And some of them are on this platform to a degree that you can fill out your query information on this platform, and then send your information to agents through the platform. And so you're not sending them an email, or you're not sending them email, or you're not filling out a form on their site. You're actually sending it through this Query Tracker platform, and it does exactly as it says. It tracks what you've sent out and who you've sent it to, and you can save some of your information there. You can save your query letter. You can save your initial pages. You can save your kind of preferences there, and it can speed up the process and make it more efficient to reach out to agents if you use that software as an example.
Mr. John, as an author, as a debut novelist, what are your short-term and long-term goals?
So I'm actually, my short-term goal is to try to sell as many copies of The Bystander as I can. So that's my debut novel. It's the first novel in a series. So I finished the second one, and I'm working on the third. The second novel comes out in May of 2026. So my short-term goal is to, build a readership. So far, I've had some really wonderful reviews. A lot of folks like my book. They seem to call it a page turner. That it's a fun read. It's an interesting mystery, interesting twist on some things that are happening in society. So my short-term goal is to hustle as much as I can, and ask people to, go on to my publisher's website or go on to Amazon, read the sample chapters, and if you like it, do me the honor of buying it. I almost want to challenge people. If you like the mystery genre, if you like a good book that's not too heavy, not too long, it's not going to take you weeks to read it. Give my book a try. Go online, read a sample, and see if you like it. And my hope is that you'll like it. Long term, I want to have a successful series. And I've got another 2 more titles that are coming out in the not too distant future, and I want that series to grow and do more. They recently sold the audio rights, so my series will be audiobooks, which is great. And so that's my goal, is just to make my series successful over the long haul.
Well, good luck to your goals, Mr. John, and looking forward for more and more empowering books that you will create. And what would be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be a debut author like you?
I think the main thing is you have to, if you believe in your work, if you believe that your work is good, then you have to stick with it. And it's for me, I spent, I wrote my book. And it took me about 6 months to further write the first, to get to my first, full complete draft, ready to pitch draft of my debut novel. And then it took 18 months to find a publisher. So but I stuck with it. I had some friends of mine who were very influential and reminded me that it was good, and reminded me that I should stick with it. And so if you believe in your work, you should stick with it. And I guess I'm kind of living proof that if you do that, you can get published.
Definitely. And stop procrastinating, people, if you have the passion to write Right, and share to the world. And thank you for that advice, Mr. John. So, what is the single most persistent and damaging myth about publishing process that you wish every aspiring author would unlearn?
I'm sorry, say that again. The most damaging part or the most unknown
Yes,
part?
the most and damaging myth about
Oh,
publishing process.
interesting. The most damaging myth about the publishing process. I think that it's a really good question. Um, I think that it may very well be that there are like overnight successes. I think that's probably the area that is the lead that's really misunderstood, because even the folks who are often categorized as overnight successes, they're not. You know, there's a great book. I don't know if you've read it. It's a super successful, excellent book called Lessons in Chemistry, and the author of Lessons in Chemistry, whose name is escaping me at the moment, but she wrote that was her debut novel that was published. But she wrote another novel, and she got rejected for her first novel by dozens of agents, and she um and then she went back and she wrote another book, and she wrote the book that became Lessons in Chemistry. And it was a phenomenon. They turned it into a series on Apple TV. It was on the New York Times bestseller list for months, maybe a year. I don't even know. I mean, she got a huge advance right from the go. I mean, as soon as agents started reading it, they wanted to represent her. And then once it was submitted, there was a bidding war. And the folks look at her and say, that they look at that and they say, oh, it's like she was like an overnight success. But she wasn't. It was actually her second run at it. And she was she was a copywriter for an advertising agency for 20 years. So she worked on her craft for basically for decades. um so there's really no, in my opinion, there's very few um actual overnight successes. And so you're more than likely that you have to put in your time. And if someone is truly an overnight success, then it's an outlier.
Mr. John, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, my other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in its fifth season too. Comedy 101 in second season, and my Food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101 in fourth season, and my Baby Podcast Law 101 and Mental Health 101. Love Letters in third season, Movie 101 Review, Music 101 in fourth season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in its first season. Please listen to them
Wow,
wherever you listen your podcast.
you're
So,
prolific, man.
thank you, Mr. John. If you could give one piece of recommendation to a talented writer who has just finished their first novel and it's sharing the daunting publishing landscape, what would it be?
It's don't give up. Don't give up. You have to. It's you have to keep pushing along. It's a challenging process. It's a daunting process. Um, but you have to, if you believe in your work, that's what it comes down to. If you believe in your work, then you have to keep pushing.
Keep pushing indeed. And Mr. John, again, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world.
My
So can
pleasure. Thank you for having me.
yes, so can you please invite our listeners to support your debut book as well as any projects that you're doing right now?
Thanks. I appreciate that. So yeah, my debut novel, it's called The Bystander. It's available online, all the online outlets, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and then also more information on me and my books is at byjohndavid.com, which is the site that's been up on the screen here.
Yes.
And so that has more information, shows some reviews, shows where I'm going to be doing some book signing, shows some news, has a little bit of background about me, shows where you can buy it, all that good stuff.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. John David, because if you support him, for sure, more and more empowering novels to come. So, Mr. John, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
More to come, people. See you soon.